Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. I am currently in my big ol' Snuggie for the day because Thursdays are my Friday. I don't have to work tomorrow. I have plans, I have things going on, but I don't have to work and I'm tired. But it is mid-month. It is the 16th today. First chance I've had to sit down and chat with you because I'm determined this year to do mid-month wrap-ups. If I read 5 books or more in the first half of the month, I would like to do a mid-month wrap-up so that my wrap-ups at the end of the month are not so daunting and so that it's not so long after having read these books to try to remember what they're about. Already I have 8 books to talk to you about for January. It has been a great reading month so far. I am rocking my TBRs. I had a TBR for TBR-a-thon, Pause and Bookshelves game board that I played for Leandra's Readathon, and my own flip and roll. I am doing fantastic. So I will wrap up those 2 things at the end of the month. I'm not even going to deal with which one of these books go for which of those TBRs. It doesn't really matter. I just want to tell you about the books that I've been reading because they've been great for the most part. So we're going to go in order of how I read them, just for the sake of order. They've been stacking up in the order that I read them, and we're just going to go like that. So first off, I read a series finisher. Loved starting the year with a series finisher because that's one of my goals of the year. Exiles by Jane Harper. This finishes the Erin Falk mystery trilogy. I really enjoy her books. I think she does such a good job of setting up the place and making you feel like you're there. This book takes place in Southern Australia and wine country. Erin goes to visit some friends and in the process discovers this kind of mystery that's going on. So there's this big festival that happens every year in this town, and at the festival a year ago, a baby was found in a stroller left alone and the mother has been disappeared. Like nobody has found her in the year since. When Erin shows up, it's a year later and the festival is happening again, and the daughter of this woman who went missing, not the baby daughter, but the teenage daughter, and other friends are kind of putting out a call to like not forget about what happened a year ago. And if anybody knows anything, please help us out. Erin is a federal investigator. He's on his vacation right now, so he's not technically working, but just by listening to people and doing what he does best, he helps piece together the clues to figure out what happened. I was surprised by the outcome. I didn't see it coming at all. And I really just like Erin. I like how he listens to people, whether it's a teenager or his friends or others, and how he kind of, because he's an outsider, sees things from a different perspective, maybe than those who've been in this situation for the past year. He's able to see some things that other people had missed. He's a stand-up guy. He's a quality fella. I just really like Erin Falk as a character, and I love Jane Harper's writing, and so this was a huge hit for me. And I knew it would be because I have honestly loved everything that I've read from her. So if you haven't yet picked up Jane Harper, I started with The Dry, and that was still my favorite, I think. It just left such an impression on me, but I have really enjoyed the other 2 books in this series, and also other Lost Man and Survivors that I've also read from Jane Harper too. So I've really enjoyed her as an author. Another author that I love and have revisited this year is The Sugar Queen by Sarah Addison Allen. This is a short little book set in the wintertime, and I just always describe Sarah Addison Allen as charming because her books do have magical realism, and in this one, it's no different. One of the characters has books that just show up in her life that pertain to things that are going on in her life, like things that she needs or things that she needs to think about. In this one, though, it's basically a coming-of-age story for this 27-year-old young lady who has kind of lived a really sheltered life. When she was a child, she was a very difficult kid, and a lot of the town holds that against her even now as an older woman, and she kind of holds it against herself and has kind of isolated herself to a degree. She's slightly awkward. She believes all of these awful things. Her mom kind of isn't the greatest and talks down to her all the time, and she is just trying to atone for this awful kid that she was. But one day she wakes up and this waitress is in her closet, Della Lee. Della Lee gives Josie some tough love and challenges her and pushes her out of her comfort zone. It's slightly strange and it's also heartwarming at the same time. I just love it. And in the process, Josie meets a couple of other people. She has a huge crush on her mailman, who she never really talks to that much, but she's just in love with him, and she just is a unique character. And as she kind of comes into her own, it's really special to see her branch out a little bit. I just really loved this one as well. 2 for 2, and here we go with book number 3, The Last Love Note by Emma Gray. I'm not going to talk too much about this because this is one of my Christmas Book Exchange 5-star predictions. So I'm not going to tell you a load about it because I will be talking about it again in a video at the end of February. But this book did make me cry. It does have a beautiful love story romance in it. I was drawn in immediately. It deals with a woman whose husband has died 2 years ago, and she is still wrestling with her grief and just the things that had happened in her previous marriage, and not sure she's ready or willing to open herself up to love again. But she goes on a work trip with her boss, who's a wonderful man and has really been a friend to her and her husband when he was ill, and just so kind and compassionate. And they go on a work trip and they get stranded because of weather or something along those lines. They have to land kind of in this place that they were not expecting and are able to hash out a lot of different things. It was a hit. It was a hit. I'll tell you later if it was 4 or 5 stars, but it was a hit. A book that I didn't really like is Nothing But the Truth by Avi. I have such mixed feelings about this. This is my lowest rated middle grade, and I can totally see why. In this book, we follow a punk little 14-year-old kid who's in 9th grade, doesn't like his English teacher because she doesn't get his humor, and he tries to mouth off and like be funny in class, and she just doesn't stand for it. She's an English teacher. She wants these kids to just have a love for literature, and he is just a smart mouth and is unable to make the baseball team because of his grades in English in particular. And so he sets out to make life a living hell for this English teacher. I won't go into what exactly he does, but it kind of blows up. He gets in trouble for his behavior, but it blows up, and him and his parents are completely on his side without even asking more details of the story. And so the whole thing always comes back to nothing but the truth, like the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Well, this is just nothing but the truth, but it's not the whole truth. It's his truth from his perspective, but it blows up, and it really makes life miserable for the school, for the school board, for the teacher in particular. And he's just a punk, and there's only a touch at the end. There's only a tiny little touch of regret, of questioning, but he still holds on to this fact that she's an awful teacher because of his own behaviors. It was so frustrating. It was so frustrating to read. I just wanted somebody to get the other side of the story, like his parents, the reporter that they first talked to, the teachers that they just could have all sat down in a room together and had a conversation and figured it all out. Why was this kid not held accountable? Like, it just was so frustrating. So I completely see why people have given it low ratings. And yet it won a Newbery honor for a reason. And I think this whole idea of truth and the whole truth is definitely a part of the story, but it was a frustrating read. I will not be keeping it on my shelves. Not at all. Another book that definitely deals with grief is my first Christian fiction of the year, The Words We Lost by Nicole Deese. In this book, we follow Ingrid, who is an acquisitions editor for a publishing company, and she's really good at her job. And she actually brought her best friend Cecilia's manuscript to this company when she was interning there, and it turned into this huge fantasy hit. But Cecilia passes away before turning in the manuscript for the final book in the series, and it is like an uproar. People are chomping at the bit to get this final manuscript. Ever since Cecilia's death, Ingrid has really struggled. She's kind of lost her desire and ability to read. And like, she can read, but it takes her so much focus, where she used to be able to just fly through manuscripts and be able to tell really quickly things about them, and if they would be worth their time as a publishing company, all of that. She was really good at her job. But since Cecilia's death, she's kind of lost that ability, and her assistant is fantastic and he covers for her really well. But she gets this letter from the lawyer, her and Joel, who was Cece's cousin and her first love. Her and Joel get a letter from Cece on the event of her death, and that she had left them a package. Well, Ingrid had not gone back to this town ever since Cece had passed away, and now she has to go back to the town. What is this package? It turns out to not be exactly what they were hoping for or expecting, but instead it was a way for Cecilia to kind of speak to them from the grave almost, and help them find their way back to themselves, back to each other, back to what was really special about their friendship when they were young. Revealed a lot of things about Ingrid's life when she was growing up and how tough it was, and her dad. There was a lot to unpack in this story, and I think it was done really, really well. I really loved this. It was like a bookish book, this second chance romance, and also this dealing with grief of the loss of a friend. So really enjoyed that one. Also grief of the loss of a father as well. The next book that I finished was a book of the month, The Light Pirate by Lily Brooks Dalton. This was totally different from everything else I've read so far this year. This is a climate fiction, sci-fi, dystopian kind of feel in a near future where storms are raging, hurricanes are worse. Florida's shoreline is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and Florida itself is kind of turning into these little island areas. In the midst of all of this, at the very beginning, we follow Kirby and his wife and 2 sons, and they're preparing for this huge hurricane. As they're preparing, Kirby has to go out. He's a lineman. He's got to go out and do some electric work. The boys take off. They disappear, and his wife is about to have a baby. And she does have a baby in the midst of the storm. The boys go missing, and that kind of kicks off the story. But really, we follow Wanda. The name of this hurricane was Wanda, and the woman names her baby Wanda, which is awful because Wanda was like the worst of the worst. And as she gets older, this name kind of becomes a weight on her back almost. We kind of skip ahead in time, and we're really following Wanda for the majority of this book. And she has experienced a lot of loss and almost lives as a recluse in the midst of this strange Florida that is swampland and risen waters, and it's a lot of scavenging. It's almost a survival story, and yet there's this beautiful kind of through line of her finding connection, relationships that bring hope and light to this woman. There's almost this element of kind of magical realism to it as well that I won't really talk about, but something about Wanda makes her a little bit special, and so because of that, she keeps hidden. I don't know. It was a strange book and compelling to read, but I don't feel like I really loved it. It was a weird reading experience. I didn't want to put it down, but being done with it, I'm like, okay, I read that. I don't know. It was kind of weird. It was kind of weird. But I am glad that I read it. It was different. And I think the writing was, the writing pulled me right in, and I could feel and experience, and like, it was very sensory. I just didn't love it. So there you have it. The Light Pirate. If any of that sounds appealing to you, then maybe pick that one up. And speaking of appealing, the next book that I finished is The Appeal by Janice Hallett. I will tell you right now, this has potential to be on my favorites list for 2025. I loved reading this book. It was such a fun read. So this book is told in emails and also text messages. At the very beginning of this one, we hear from 2 lawyers who get this case file of all of these emails sent back and forth between members of this community theater group. So these two lawyers have been tasked with reading through all of this material and seeing if they could figure out what happened. There were very vague instructions. Just read through this and let me know what you think. Who did it? So then we, along with these two lawyers, read through all of these emails and we get to know all of the members of this community theater group. There are some quirky characters in there. There are some sketchy characters. There's some like, go get them, I'm going to take care of everything characters. And we don't know until 3/4, even maybe more than that, what actually happens. We're just really getting to know as they prepare for this play. The head of the theater group and his wife, who always has the lead role, they let everybody know that their granddaughter has been diagnosed with cancer. And so a big part of the communication between everybody is a lot of the members of the community group step up to raise money. They start an appeal, a fund, GoFundMe type of a thing to raise money for Poppy, the granddaughter. All of them have things about them that are slightly sketchy. We go all the way through the events of the death. And then we see the lawyers talking back and forth, and we kind of come back to the lawyers and we see them talking back and forth about all of their theories of who did it. Who is the strongest suspect out of this group of characters? So they put all of these theories in there, and I'm like, oh, that could have been the truth. That could have been what happened. That could have been what happened. And then their boss gives them these kind of questions to think about and clues about things, and they have to go back and revisit it. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I am not very good about picking up on clues, but I really enjoyed reading this. Very, very much. And I can't wait to read another book by Janice Hallett. And then finally, just today, I completed my 8th book of the month, Welcome to the Hunam Bookshop by Huang Bo-rum. I unfortunately didn't love this as much as I was hoping to. I thought that this was going to be a huge hit for me. Cozy bookshop setting. And it was very cozy. I loved the bookshop scenes. I really enjoyed some of the different characters and watching their lives kind of intertwine with each other. This is translated from Korean. So the names of everybody took a little bit of getting used to. And I'm wondering if because of the translation, that's why I didn't feel fully connected to it. I don't know. But we're following Young Ju, and she, at the very beginning, opens up this bookshop and comes in every day and just reads and cries. Is a little bit struggling, clearly, but we don't exactly know why. And we watch her find her feet. We watch her develop what she wants her bookshop to be. We don't really learn the reason why she was so upset at the beginning until later on, but we just watch her build this business, grow this bookshop. We know it's a dream of hers. We know there's a lot in here about finding what you love to do and do it, regardless of what might be expected of you or plans that you may have had for your life. And I love like the barista that she hired early on. I love the lady that sits at the cafe tables and just knits all day. I love the teenager whose mom is making him come to the bookstore for kind of punishment, but he ends up just connecting with these people as well. There was a lot about this that I did really like, but I still felt held at a distance and I never fully was in it. It was very slow. There was not a lot that happens. And that's sometimes an issue for me, but not always. Sometimes I love it. I think of Sipsworth. That was one of my favorites last year. That was also very slow and not a lot happens and about these kind of characters who come together. But I just was so drawn in by that one. And this one, I was missing that piece that pulled me in. And I don't know if that's the translation or if it's this book itself, because I feel like I just wanted to love this more than I did. I think I ended up giving it a 3.5 star. It was cozy. It was soft. It was gentle. It was lovely in so many ways. It was bookish. Had a lot of points to ponder, like things to think about as Young Ju was kind of processing through a lot of things in her mind. A little teeny tiny touch of romance starting. I don't know. It just was kind of a miss, which is a bummer. But overall, I would say I've had such a fantastic reading month already. I am thrilled about these books. Ooh, so here they are. These are the 8 books that I have read already this month. I would love to chat with you in the comments about any of these books. If you've read them or not, if you're adding them to your TBR or not. I will keep these out so that I can refer to them in my final wrap up at the end of the month. I will not be talking fully about them again, but I will tell you which prompts they fulfilled and all of that jazz. Because I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yay for 2025. If you've made it all the way to the end, but you don't really have anything to say in the comments, that's totally fine. I would still love to know that you were here. Throw me a little thumbs up emoji in the comments just to let me know that you made it to the end. It really means a lot to me to see who's here watching. And I also love talking to you in the comments, so feel free to leave a comment as well. But that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to chatting with you in another video very soon. Bye.